before man, before cities, fire, or even flowers. There was a time when Earth was quiet, a world ruled by simple life, drifting through shallow seas and anchored to the ocean floor. It was a time of strange creatures, soft-bodied and slow-moving. The Earth, young and unstable, had only just begun to dream of life. But dreams can end. Roughly 540 million years ago, the planet took a breath, and then it choked. This is the story of the first great extinction. When the sky darkened, the oceans changed, and over 70% of life vanished. Not by war, not by ice, but by a silent, creeping collapse, unseen, unstoppable. Tonight we return to a world before bones, to the day the sky turned black. Imagine standing at the edge of a shallow, ancient sea. There is no grass, no trees, no birds, no insects. The land is bare rock, hot, cracked, and quiet. Below the water's surface, life clings. Worm-like creatures burrow in the mud. Flat, leaf-shaped beings drift on gentle currents. They have no eyes, no mouths, no bones, just shapes, shadows of life, drifting through time. This is the Ediacaran period, Earth's strange childhood. Life here is soft, both in body and in fate. There are no predators, no fear, only existence. For millions of years, this quiet world thrives in stillness. But all is not well. The oceans begin to change. Oxygen, the invisible breath of life, starts to disappear from the water. Deep currents grow sluggish. Vital chemicals shift. And without warning, the balance tips. What comes next is not an explosion, but a slow drowning of a planet. At first, no one noticed. There were no eyes to witness, no minds to understand. But the ocean felt it. The water, once rich with life-giving oxygen, grew still, heavy, thick with decay. Microscopic plants, once feeding the world, began to die. Their death stained the sea with silence. The oxygen they made faded, and the creatures who needed it began to fade too. Some tried to move, but they had no legs, no speed, no choice. One by one, they suffocated, not from violence, but from invisible emptiness. It was as if the ocean itself forgot how to breathe, and in that forgetting, life, ancient, delicate life, was erased, not in fire, not in flood, but in a dark stillness that crept through the currents and never stopped moving. They left no bones, no claws, no skulls to unearth in dusty museums. They were soft like jelly, flat like leaves, strange like dreams we forget upon waking. But they were life, and they had survived for millions of years, through shifting tides, through a restless earth. Until now, no meteor fell, no volcano screamed. There was no thunder, no wind, only silence and stillness, layer by layer. These creatures, shaped like discs, feathers, ripples, simply stopped moving. No graves, no names, just a vanishing. And when it was over, when the sea quieted again, the world had changed. The first great extinction had passed, not with fire, but with forgetting, and something new would take their place. In the quiet left behind, the earth began again. But this time, it chose something different. Bones. A cage for softness. A weapon for survival. A memory made solid. From the murky edges of the ocean floor, new creatures emerged. Not flat, not formless, but shaped by structure. Backbones. Shells. Jaws. It was as if the planet had learned. The soft had vanished. The weak had drowned. And now, something stronger was being sculpted. These early animals did not float. They swam. They hunted. They bit. For the first time in Earth's long history, teeth met flesh. Predation had arrived. And with it, the age of silence was over. The ocean, once a drifting garden, was now a battlefield. And all of it, every bone, every blade, every eye, traced back to the silence that came before. Extinction had cleared the canvas. Now the earth painted with sharper tools they had never seen before. Not truly. For millions of years, life had drifted in darkness, feeling the world through pulses, currents, and chemical whispers. But now, in the newly stirred oceans, a change began. A dot of light, a patch of shadow, a flicker of movement. The first eyes opened. Primitive, yes, but powerful. With vision came awareness. With awareness came hunger. No longer did creatures wait for food to find them. Now they chased it, hunted it, feared being seen. And so began the arms race of nature, the eternal struggle between seeing and not being seen. Shells grew thicker, bodies flattened, Camouflage was born. Ice changed everything. They gave life a direction, a decision, a destiny. And in those glowing waters, a world once slow and silent grew sharp and fast. The age of sight had arrived. It was no longer a drifting garden. The ocean had become a war zone. Every ripple, every shadow, carried a threat. Some creatures struck with jaws, others pierced with spikes. Some vanished into sand, waiting in perfect stillness for the moment to strike. This was the Cambrian battlefield, a time when survival meant adaptation or extinction. Trilobites rolled into armored wheels. Nautiloids hunted with precision. Anomalocaris, a giant of its time, sliced through schools of soft prey. With claws like scythes, every creature had to evolve or disappear. And so they did. They changed. Fast, fiercely. It was nature's first great experiment in escalation. Speed against armor, claws against camouflage, eyes against invisibility. Below the waves, where once only silence lived, now echoed the chaos of competition. This was the cost of survival, to destroy or be destroyed. And the ocean remembered everything. For a time life flourished. The ocean shimmered with color and motion. New shapes, new strength, new minds. But the earth never forgets what it's capable of. Beneath the waves, a shift began. Oxygen fell again. Currents faltered. Volcanoes breathed poison into the seas. The surface knew sunlight, but the depths grew dark. And with darkness came silence. Familiar, deadly. Species vanished quietly, just as they had once before. Some fled deeper. Some adapted. But most simply ceased. It was not the great death yet. Not the worst. But it was a whisper. A reminder that Earth, for all its beauty, has a shadow side. One that always returns. From stillness came motion. From silence came breath. After extinction's hush, life always answers. It begins small. Always small. Tiny worms winding through the sediment. Microscopic creatures pulsing with new instructions. A spark of movement. In the dark. And then, suddenly, diversity blooms again. Harder shells. Sharper instincts. Stranger designs. Some creatures wore armor. Others built traps. Some learned to hide. Others to run. This was not a return to what was. This was something new. Life, shaped by loss, had evolved into something more resilient, more cautious, but no less determined. The ocean, once quiet and suffocating, now teemed with innovation. Every death had cleared the way for new forms of life. The ashes had not buried life. They had fertilized it. They did not move. They did not chase or flee. They did not roar. But they built. Tiny creatures, no larger than a grain of rice, laid the foundations for one of Earth's greatest wonders. Coral, stone grown from life, a skeleton shared by millions. As oceans warmed and settled, these quiet architects began to carve underwater kingdoms. Pillars, ridges, caves, and towers, rising slowly through the blue. They created shelter, not just for themselves, but for thousands of species, fish, mollusks, crustaceans, even predators. The reef became a city, one of light, color, and rhythm. And yet, behind the beauty, there was a memory, a reminder. Coral only builds when the sea is stable. When death sleeps, the reef was proof that life could grow from loss. But it also whispered, this peace may not last. It began as a shimmer on the edge of the horizon, a distant haze, a change in the light. Then the wind shifted, the waters warmed, the clouds thickened, and one morning, the sun did not rise. The sky turned black. Volcanoes stretching across continents ripped through the crust, belching ash into the atmosphere. The oceans, once homes of color and rhythm, grew acidic, poisoned by the breath of the earth. Coral bleached and cracked. Fish choked in silence. Ash drifted across the world. For years, decades, centuries, sunlight faded. Temperatures dropped. Photosynthesis slowed. Food chains collapsed. It was not one event, but a cascade, a slow-motion fall. No creature could stop. This was not the end of life, but the end of a kind of life. And in the stillness that followed, the world waited. Again, the darkness stayed. Not for hours, not for days, but for generations. Sunlight became myth. Shadows ruled the surface. The oceans grew cold. The land barren. Those who survived did so by instinct, burrowing into the seafloor, drifting in the deep, waiting. The world was not dead, but it was quiet. So quiet. No birds, no rustling leaves, no footprints, only the sound of shifting stone and distant tides. This was the longest night, a global pause, a breath held for eons. And yet, in the stillness, something stirred. Beneath black skies and ashen seas, tiny life clung to existence, mending, adapting, enduring. The earth was not finished. Not yet. The night would lift, but it would change everything. It began with a shimmer, a pale glow behind the soot, a soft warmth on cold stone. The earth, after its long night, was waking. Ash fell slower. Skies began to thin. And then, at last, light. The sun rose over a broken world. It did not bring joy, not at first. It revealed the damage, empty seas, silent reefs, extinct shapes, but it also brought possibility. The survivors, small and strange, emerged from cracks and depths. They blinked at the light. They moved toward it. Plants stretched toward the warmth. Algae returned to the sea's surface. And the cycle, long paused, began again. This was not rebirth. It was something more. Reinvention. For the creatures that rose now would be tougher, smarter, more complex. The light had returned, and with it, so had evolution. Extinction is not just an end. It is also a beginning, a message, a memory. Those who survived did not forget, not in words, but in form, in instinct, in code written deep within cells. The earth had tested life, and life had adapted. Creatures began to build differently. Faster metabolism, more efficient breathing, stronger defenses. Extinction had carved away the fragile, leaving behind the adaptable. Even silence had value now. Even hiding had purpose. From this legacy rose new kingdoms, ancestors of fish, of insects, of amphibians yet to crawl onto land. Their bodies held a quiet knowledge. Change or vanish. This was the inheritance of extinction. Not fear, but resilience. And so, beneath a healing sky, life continued, carrying the scars of a past it would never fully understand, but would never forget. In the mud, tiny shapes began to stir. They were not special, not yet. Just flickers of possibility. A fin that might become a leg, a breath that might leave water, a spark that might, one day, become thought. These were not the rulers of their time. They were the forgotten, the small, the hidden. But inside them, change was blooming. Genes rewrote themselves. Limbs shifted. Brains grew. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of a recovering world, a tiny creature crawled a little closer to the surface. Did not know. It carried the future. But it did. In its blood, its bones, its breath, were the seeds of what would come. Not just new species, but new ways to live. Eyes would see further. Limbs would walk. And one day, something would stand upright and wonder where it came from. All of it began here. We do not remember it, not with stories, or songs, or stone, but it lives within us, in every heartbeat, in every breath, in the way we fear the dark and reach for light. There is an echo of that ancient sky when it turned black. The first extinction did not end life. It shaped it, and through the silence, through the ash and the shadow, a path was carved, a path that led to us. We are built from survivors, from creatures who endured when the world ended, from ancestors who whispered, change, grow, move forward. And still, inside our blood, the memory stirs, of oceans without light, of nights without warmth, of life, fragile, persistent, and rising again. So when we look to the stars, or fear the storm, or marvel at the flame, we are not just human, we are ancient, we are echoes, we are the children of a world that almost ended and didn't.